Okay, so the screen wall is as done as it can be for now. We're ready to mount the speakers and do paint. I still have to get the lag bolts to put on the clean out cover, but that's going to look really cool. So now we're going to move over to the armory wall, is what I've been calling it. It's going to hide the DVDs, at least this big section. I still have to figure out something for the smaller section, probably just a panel, you know, removable or a hinged panel. So I got some piano hinges for this. I was gonna try to do it with a frame of furring strips and then use the thin boards we're using as the backer for the 3D panels. That felt a little too cheap and chintzy. These won't be open and closed all the time. It's not a door, it's gonna be a DVD cabinet, but I still wanted something a little more substantial, and I also have these really cool galvanized steel boards I'm gonna use to mount, you know, blaster replicas, helmets, lightsaber hilts, all that kind of stuff, which is why I'm calling it the armory wall. So I wanted something a little bit more substantial that would hold together. So it's gonna be a little bit more expensive to use the 1/2 inch underlayment plywood that I've been using, but that's what we're going with. We're gonna make 2 doors that open in the middle because I think one door would be too much torque on the hinge. I couldn't find a hinge with a long bar that would go across the inside. I looked for a long time, and it was one of those things where, like the LED star screen that we talked about in a previous video, it just became way more complicated than it needed to be. So I'm just simplifying it. 2 doors that open the middle. I think it's gonna look cooler anyway. And I kind of have a 4 grid panel system going up for the armory part of it, so it all kind of works out. Here I have the boards cut it to the height and the width. And of course the stock board is 48 inches where I needed 54 for the doors. So you can see here, there is a seam between the two, but the design I wanted, it's all gonna be bordered anyway, including a border in the middle to separate the 2 weapon rack sections. So this should work out just fine. Use some pine boards on the edges, middle, top, bottom. Let's get to it. These strips are great fillers, great tools, but they're cheap. So we're gonna have to start from one side, bend it into place for the bottom. We're gonna flip it, sink a few more screws in. All the screw holes are gonna be covered up with some wood filler, sanded down. Nothing in the Death Star themed room should look like cheap pine board. I feel like I need to make this entire room and then scrap the entire thing and make the entire room again, and then I'll actually know what I'm doing. It's pretty sturdy so far. There's the bottom of it. I obviously have to trim the overhang off. I think it looks pretty cool. Ignore the excessive amount of holes. I actually put these rails on and I forgot to hit record, so I took everything out, backed it off so I could capture it. So all these seams will be filled in. I'll caulk all the insides of this so when it's painted it's nice, smooth. It'll look like one molded piece. Cover up all those screw holes. And what I wanted to do with this kind of wood is I'm gonna leave the backside raw, and I want to wood burn in everything from the Obi-Wan series where I found the wall with the path, and I want to put the path in. And I might even put in some names of people who helped me or whatever with this project in the Aerobesh, and it's something that I can kind of keep as a living document of the room. Here's kind of a dry fit look with the armory panels. The stuff I found is actually called gun board. It's basically a pegboard that doesn't look just like a pegboard because it has the long slats in it also. These are galvanized steel, which I think is going to be a cool look, especially with the courtesy lighting I have for it. Don't judge the placement too much. I just kind of laid it out to fit it in. I can't put them on until the whole thing's painted, obviously. The galvanized steel will stay galvanized steel, and the door itself will be in the Death Star, like slate blue-gray that it is.